permission to come aboard.
Fans of the DC comicverse have been let down by DC films for quite some time now, with properties like Batman vs. Superman and Wonder Woman 1984 serving as stark reminders that the studio has a lot of work to do to beat Marvel at its own game. And since Aquaman seems to be the only DC hero left standing, anticipation for his sequel has never been higher. But how much do we really know about Aquaman 2 as it currently stands? Well, whether you're a fan of Arthur Curry or just want to see DC Films get back on its feet with a new installment of the adventures of the Half-Atlantean, stay right where you are, as we're about to take a look at everything we know about DC's most hopeful sequel. So strap yourselves in, fellow geeks, as things are about to get interesting. Who is Aquaman? Before diving right in and looking for the lost city of Atlantis though, it might be best to take a quick look at who Aquaman is and where he came from. At least this way those unfamiliar with the heroic mariner won't be left out in the dark when it comes down to the nitty-gritty. Arthur Curry, who is more affectionately known as Aquaman, is a fictional superhero appearing in the DC comic verse. A fully fledged member of the Justice League, Aquaman is actually half human and half Atlantean, having been born from a relationship between his Atlantean mother and a lowly lighthouse keeper above sea level. Having debuted in More Fun Comics issue number 73 in November of 1941, there's no doubt that Arthur Curry has been around for quite some time. Prior to the 90s, however, Arthur wasn't exactly given the best reputation among readers of DC Comics. Although he is the unrivaled king of Atlantis, many considered his powers to be incredibly weak when compared to other members of the Justice League, which led to many stand-up routines solidifying the thought that the hero can only talk to fish. But then things started to get a bit more serious for Aquaman, who led a line of comic books aimed at the exploration and defense of Atlantis, showing readers just how powerful the mariner actually is. From controlling Cthulhu to maintaining peace throughout the hidden city, readers were transfixed by the feats of Aquaman. Unfortunately for him, as a character though, the damage had already been done, and those who didn't read the comics still interpreted him as the weakest of the Justice League. Cue Jason Momoa, who, after portraying the role of Khal Drogo in everyone's favorite fantasy series, Game of Thrones, was brought on to portray Arthur Curry in DC Films' own Aquaman, and just like that, Aquaman was back on top, with fans currently chomping at the bit to see his portrayal of the Snyder Cut of Justice League on HBO Max in a few weeks' time. But what fans of the Atlantean superhero really can't wait for is the sequel to the box office smash that was his first solo film, which ended up making a solid $1.148 billion, to the surprise of almost everyone involved. So now that you're adequately caught up with the majesty that is Arthur Curry as Aquaman, let's take a look at all the information we currently know about the upcoming sequel to DC Films' most successful franchise yet. When is Aquaman 2 set to release? As far as the release date goes, fans of Aquaman might be a bit disappointed to hear that the sequel is only set to hit cinemas around 16th of December 2020, a full 4 years after the first movie was released. Worst yet, this news was confirmed by Warner Bros. Prior to the global health situation, which has not just become famous for taking people's lives and jobs, but for delaying the filming and production of everyone's favorite shows. And it unfortunately looks like the situation has indeed delayed Arthur's return to the silver screen, as pre-production was set to begin late last year, while production was looking to get underway this year. Since nothing of the sort has been able to go down, we might need to expect a delayed release date, but hope for an earlier one. It must also be said that Warner Bros. Has had quite a bit on its plate considering the fan backlash experienced over including Amber Heard as Mira in the announced cast of the sequel. Although it's true that Heard portrayed the role quite well in the first film, this was before the horrendous divorce proceedings aired between her and her husband Johnny Depp. Long story short, Heard referred to and accused the beloved Depp of being a woman abuser, but then evidence came to the fore showing that she was actually the one who had on occasion physically abused him, since it appeared that Depp was being punished for doing nothing while Heard was being given roles and appearances for essentially lying and more. The public didn't respond well to DC Films announcing her in the upcoming sequel. In other words, there are essentially two uncontrollable factors that may cause Aquaman 2 to be delayed far beyond its initial release date of 16th of December 2022. So we'll have to wait and see what the future holds for the franchise, as we can only be sure of a release date once a trailer has graced YouTube once more. Who will be returning in the sequel? Although not yet confirmed, we can say at least with some conviction that Jason Momoa will be returning to reprise the role of Arthur Curry, as Aquaman 2 would be nothing without the King of Atlantis himself. Warner Bros. Has also confirmed that they will not be taking fan backlash into account over the casting of Mira when deciding whether she will be appearing alongside her fictional lover. And as such, we can pretty much assume that Amber Heard will be returning as a result. Patrick Wilson, who plays the role of Orm, has been confirmed for the sequel and even told interviewers that James Wan has already briefed him on what is next for the deposed King of Atlantis. In his own words, I can tell you that even Wan's concepts for Aquaman 2 are pushing things even further. And then finally, the last confirmation fans have been salivating over is the return of Yawwa Abdul Mateen II as Black Manta, who has been set up as the main villain of the franchise. When telling interviewers how excited he is to reprise his role, Yawwa said, "Black Mantis will be back, and hopefully he'll be causing a lot more trouble than he did in the first one." There are of course a myriad of other popular actors ranging from Nicole Kidman to Dolph Lundgren that fans want to see be returning, but unfortunately the jury is still out on their return to the franchise. We can only hope that these choose to return when the time comes for filming to begin once more. What do we need to remember about the first Aquaman film? Since this popular piece of cinema arrived back on the scene in 2018 before cinematic achievements like Marvel's Avengers Endgame, we don't blame you if you can't quite remember what went down in the world of Arthur Curry. Before getting into what we can expect from the sequel to the franchise, let's take a quick recap of the events of the first film. We're introduced to Arthur when he is just a baby. We see his mother being taken away by attacking Atlanteans, and his father teaching him that his humanity is his most important strength. To the Atlanteans, however, there is nothing worse than humanity, who has been polluting the oceans for decades and causing their ecosystems to slowly wither and die. This is what causes Orm, who later takes on the name of Ocean Master, to enlist the help of Black Manta in making it seem like humanity is waging war on Atlantis. Foreseeing this, Mera visits Arthur and informs him that he is the true king of Atlantis, which starts the journey of a lifetime, where Arthur sets about trying to retrieve the lost trident of King Neptune. Once reclaimed after much physical and emotional difficulties, Arthur finds that he can use the trident to control a vast number of sea creatures, who now consider him to be the true king of the ocean. He uses his power to disrupt the war between the deep and Atlantis, singling Ocean Master out and challenging him to another fight for the throne. Using the skills he learned on his journey, he defeats Orm and takes his place as the true king of Atlantis, where he uses his half-human and half-Atlantean ties to convince Atlantis that humanity was never their true enemy. What can we expect from the plot of Aquaman 2? So we can most likely expect the plot of Aquaman 2 to surround the difficulties that any new ruler of a hidden city of people might face. Similar to the storyline of T'Challa in Marvel's Black Panther, whether there is a new villain on the horizon threatening Atlantis, or Black Manta takes the helm once more, there's no doubt that Arthur will be finding himself in some pretty deep water. It's one thing being recognized as the king, yet another to rule appropriately while keeping all your fellow citizens happy about it. According to Jason Momoa, who let it slip back in 2018, the future of Aquaman was already mapped out by James Wan before the first movie even hit theaters. And while most consider it to be the origin story of Aquaman himself, we feel like most have forgotten that it was also the origin of Arthur's biggest rival in Black Manta. In other words, if Atlantis is facing a threat in the sequel that looks like to have come out of nowhere, we can probably expect Yala's character to be behind it. This little theory is actually supported by a claim made on Twitter by David Johnson McGoldrick. While responding to a fan about the future of Aquaman, he wrote, "We're not taking any one particular comic book story and adapting it. If you want to know the vibe we're going for, pick up pretty much any Silver Age story featuring Black Manta." Patrick Wilson also dropped some hints about the sequel when talking at DC Fandom last year, stating that it would involve taking the viewer to new worlds that have never been on screen before. Does this mean we'll see Aquaman visiting the abyss that has been hidden from the eyes of humanity due to the extreme pressures exerted so far below sea level? It would be nothing new to the physiology of an Atlantean after all. And then finally James Wan, the director of the franchise, chimed in on top of Wilson's comments by stating that the second one is a little bit more serious and a little bit more relevant in the world we are living in today. That is where it wants to go. What this means? We have absolutely no idea, but it's likely that Arthur will be dropping some truth and social commentary along with some incredible punches. What are your theories for the second installment? Let us know in the comments section down below.